Hey guys, this is Sports with Dylan. This is my third and final NHL position rankings leading up to the NHL season. But you will see me again next week with an even better video. But for now, I will be ranking every single NHL team's best forward. Travis Konechny just isn't a number one forward. He isn't a bad forward, and he would be a good first or second liner on plenty of teams. But the Flyers are not a good team, which means that he is by far their best forward for now. Trevor Zegras has shown all the potential in the world, and I believe he could easily skyrocket up into the top 10 rankings of this for next season. But for now, I've got to keep him down here because he's unproven, and there are just so many good forwards in the NHL. Anthony Duclair had a very good season a couple years back, but then he struggled with injuries, including a torn Achilles, and got traded to the Sharks with a salary cap dump. He could bounce back this season, but at the same time, age and the fact that he's now on the Sharks is not in his favor. Taylor Hall is another guy that just hasn't worked out since he left Arizona, honestly. He was good in Arizona, great in New Jersey, good in Edmonton, but once he went to Buffalo after Arizona, he just didn't work, got traded to Boston, and just still never got that spark, despite being on a great team. Now he gets to restart it all with a young Chicago Blackhawks team, where he gets the opportunity to mentor Connor Bedard. Jared McCann scored 40 goals last season. I was as shocked as you guys are when I heard that. He had quite a good season. In fact, that entire Kraken offense had a good season. And it's tough to say who the truly best forward is, but they're all quite good. With Vladimir Tarasenko and Ryan O'Reilly gone, that leaves Jordan Kyrou as the top forward on the Blues. He is a solid forward, but I still don't see him as a team-leading superstar forward. And this is my first hot take of the day. I don't think Pierre-Luc Dubois is as good as people make him out to be. He was at best, the third best forward on this Jets team this past year. Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor were far and away way better forwards for the Jets. Don't get me wrong, Pierre-Luc Dubois isn't a bad player, but the Kings put all of their eggs in one basket by trading away multiple good depth players in exchange for one guy who's just fine, but he's not that great. I would have picked the Matthew Tkachuk trade over this one, despite the fact that, yes, I believe the Panthers did overpay for Matthew Tkachuk. At least Matthew Tkachuk, I thought, was a true star. While Pierre-Luc Dubois, he's fine, but I still don't see him as a massive game changer. Cole Caulfield is catching up, and if he hadn't struggled with injuries last year, he could have surpassed Nick Suzuki as the pass forward on the Canadiens. But this year, we'll have to see. This is going to be a fun race between them and maybe even someone like Kirby Dach or George Slafkovsky. It's really tough to decide between Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor here. Both of them played pretty much equally the past couple of seasons, honestly. They're both very good forwards. This will be an interesting one to see if Mark Scheifele, who is a pending unrestricted free agent, sticks around in Winnipeg for the entire season or if he gets traded mid-season. We'll have to see. Dylan Larkin is looking pretty good on a better Detroit offense. He should look even better this year with more forwards and just another year of development from the people around him. maybe this is too high for Ryan O'Reilly, but I still quite like him as a two-way forward. It was a very surprising signing by the Predators, but I will give them credit. They got a good forward, which is what they desperately needed. The question is, will he start to show his age, or will he actually play well and help the Nashville Predators? I almost feel bad for putting Brady Tkachuk this low. He had a very good season last year. The problem being, like I mentioned earlier, there are just so many good forwards in the NHL right now. Brady needs to have a groundbreaking season to get much higher than this. But he did play amazingly, and this Senators team should be excited. Another guy who had a great season, Clayton Keller, despite being on a team with no one else, not a single other good player on the team, he played absolutely amazing last year, so good for him. Some of you might be mad at me, specifically my one friend who's probably not watching this video, but is a Coyotes fan, for some reason, for putting Jonathan Huberdeau above Clayton Keller. But hear me out. Huberdeau had a bad season last year, but I think he can bounce back from it. Overall, Huberdeau is a better player. For now, another bad season, and Clayton Keller and Brady Tkachuk will jump above him, no question. I don't feel bad for Johnny Gaudreau for not doing as well this past year as he did the year before. He left a good team in Calgary, well, mind you, they didn't have the best season, and instead went to Columbus? I still don't understand remotely why. But maybe he'll improve this season with a better offense around him, or maybe that was it. Calgary was his peak. Bo Horvat had a very good season, especially in Vancouver. Once he got to New York, he played quite well and actually added a spur to their entire offense, which helped them make the playoffs, while his personal statistics were not quite as good. Sebastian Aho is perfectly fitting for this 16th spot. He's a good forward. He just isn't a superstar. He's on a good team, and he's always helped out his teammates. He's always played well. He's just never been in consideration for one of the best in the league. But watch out, because Andrei Svechnikov could easily take his place pretty soon with the season he had last year before he got injured. Jack Eichel got his Stanley Cup. And while he just hasn't been the same superstar in Vegas, he's still played quite well. And like I said, he got the Stanley Cup, which is really what matters. Despite his age, Sidney Crosby is still playing at a high level. That could very well change this season with another year under his belt, or maybe he will improve with Erik Karlsson on defense and just a better overall team. Gotta say, it was really tough to decide who to put first, Ovechkin or Crosby. I end up deciding with Ovechkin just because he has more goals in any given season. But Ovechkin is looking at a potential sharp decline with not that great of an offense around him and a team that's just starting to age. They're not looking that great anymore. But he's got to keep persevering to try and pass Gretzky's goal record. Tage Thompson broke out last year. Absolutely broke out. I mean, it was remarkable seeing someone that I really didn't even know existed before the start of the season turn into a top 15 forward in the NHL. Maybe not top 15 forward in the NHL, because there are quite a few good secondary forwards on teams, but a top 15 number 1 forward in the NHL. Jack Hughes should only keep going up. When I watch that guy play, he looks good. And he's still young. He still is on a very good team that added to their forward group this offseason, which means that he should have even more potential. Kirill Kaprizov didn't have his best career season this past year. But he still wasn't that bad. He was still easily a top 10 number 1 forward in the NHL. Artemi Panarin's another guy who, if the Rangers truly want to win a Stanley Cup, he's got to pick up the pace in the playoffs, as do most of his teammates. The Rangers have the roster. All 3 of the positions I've ranked have come in the top 10. In fact, he's the lowest one. And yet, they just can't seem to put it together come the postseason. Pettersson quietly had the best season of his career last year. Despite being on an abysmal Canucks team and losing Bo Horvat, one of the better players on that team mid-season, he still played lights out, and that could look to even further improve. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have trash-talked that Matthew Tkachuk trade so much last year. I still don't believe that it was necessary for the Panthers to pay as much as they did, because they did give up a superstar in Jonathan Huberdeau, and a good defender, Mackenzie Weegar, and a first-round pick. But, that being said, I said multiple times that Huberdeau was a better forward than Tkachuk, which did not turn out to be the case. So, I will apologize for that one. But, we will have to see if Matthew Tkachuk can continue on his wonderless streak this season, or if he starts to come back down to earth. Jason Robertson is one guy who quietly had one of the best seasons in the NHL all season. That guy played extremely well on a talented Stars team. He is looking great for the future. Austin Matthews did not have a great season this past year. After having a heart-winning season the year prior, he just couldn't put it together this past season. But that could change this year. Every superstar does have a down season once in a while, and I'm sure he will bounce back. Nikita Kucherov played well. He doesn't get many goals, but he gets so many assists every single year. That guy just plays so well on the ice. Even still, despite the fact that he is getting up there in age, he is still by far the best forward on the Lightning. Although, Braden Point is gaining ground. Nathan MacKinnon struggled a bit with injuries last season, but when on the ice, that guy played amazing. He still had some of the best stats all year amongst all forwards, despite the fact that he missed plenty of games, so good on him. David Pastrnak scored 61 goals last season. 61! If it were any other season you can look back at, I bet you he would have won the Hart Trophy. That guy went kind of under the radar. Not the fact that he's a superstar, we all know that, but the fact that he scored 61 goals last season. That just blows my mind. He played extremely well in Boston. That entire team did. But maybe they'll fall back down to earth this year. Or maybe he will continue on this pace and get his Hart Trophy this year. There's a reason why I have to specify number 1 forwards in the NHL. Because I still believe that Draisaitl is the second best forward in the NHL. Which means that pushes guys down. Braden Point would be up here, Mikko Rantanen. Either way, McDavid falls at number 1, unquestionably. Who else could I have put here? McDavid is a superstar. He played lights out last season. You've heard this before, obviously. And hopefully, for me and all the other Oilers fans' sake, he can continue on this streak. But for now, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys again in 1 week.